Welcome into the Commanders Report mailbag. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today it's my favorite segment of the week. I get to take your guys' questions on the Washington Commanders, and instead of me guessing what you want me to talk about, you get to tell me directly what topics you want me to talk about on today's show. So really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the most inclusive and most extensive Commanders content creator here on YouTube. We really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you click that subscribe button and join us every week on Wednesday for our mailbags here, our Q&A portions here on the Commanders Report. First question coming in from Jaden Sports says, Commanders, if we trade B-Rob, what pick do you think we would get for him, and how would you plan a scheme after him? Get one premier back or have a duo running back room? If you trade away Brian Robinson Jr., then it obviously creates a big hole in the running back room, especially because, Austin Eckler has 1, maybe 2 years left in him. I'm guessing probably 1. I don't know if you believe in Chris Rodriguez Jr. or Jeremy McNichols to really step in line in terms of, next guy up in that room. So you probably have to take a running back within sometime during the NFL draft. The good thing about this year's NFL draft, though, guys, is that you can really wait to take a good running back, all right? Like, you could get R.J. Harvey in the 4th round right now, according to the consensus big board, and I love R.J. Harvey. You can get a guy like Bashal Tootin or Damian Martinez out of Miami. Like, there's a lot of really good running backs that you can get without having to spend your 1st or your 2nd or even your 3rd round pick on. So obviously the Commanders have a few needs. They need to get a pass rushing specialist of some sort at edge. They need to get a safety. It'd be nice to get kind of a developmental kind of guy at corner. Receiver, getting another receiver piece would be nice. But if you do trade B-Rob, you get somebody to come in here. And probably the guy that I would want is somebody that can run an inside zone / duo type of system that can also do a little bit of power stuff, all right? Like, I think that B-Rob is perfectly adequate. So personally, if I'm the Commanders, I'm just keeping B-Rob as my number 1 running back. Probably not giving him a big new contract or anything like that when his contract comes up. But I think that B-Rob is perfectly fine as this team's number 1 running back because this offense does revolve around Jaden Daniels. Then we got Jasmine Gray says, I have a question for you, Jack. Is the Washington Commanders will stay at number 29 or trade down from the number 29 spot of the NFL draft? Jasmine, I think that if there's an opportunity to trade down, I think I would do it. Because, you traded a lot of your mid-round picks this year for Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil, and right now you only have 5 picks at your disposal. So if you can trade down with somebody like the Cleveland Browns at 33 or even the New York Giants at number 34, you guys can take a look at this trade idea that we've put on the show before where you trade down to 34, you get an additional 4th-round pick. By the way, that 4th-round pick could be your wide or could be your running back to replace B-Rob with. Who knows? So, I think that there's a lot of options at your disposal. Now, if a guy like Mike Green or James Pearce Jr. gets on your doorstep there and you really like that player, I think you're sticking and picking. But if there isn't a player that you like absolutely love at number 29 and you would like to get an additional middle round pick, I think that if there's opportunities to trade out of the 1st round, I think that's something the Commanders should consider, especially, like I said, if you get a late day 2 pick or an early day 3 pick. Then you got one from Shannon here. Says, everyone was so willing to trade at first for Miles, then Trey, etc. Why not trade next year's 2nd for more picks this year? Is that supposed to be 1st or 2nd? I can't tell because there's a 2, but there's an ST at the end. It says an extra pick in the 30 to 50 range is huge with this class. I think this is kind of similar to how trading down would be good, or why not next year's. I'm confused by this question, Shannon. Are you saying trade a future draft pick for an edge rusher? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind that, but, these teams are going to want draft picks in this year's draft class, all right? They want to replace the players that they're losing, excuse me, with players in the draft. So I don't know how effective that strategy would necessarily be there, Sharon, but that's certainly something that I would consider if it's on the table. We got another question coming in here from Kieran. Says, are you scared of James Pearce Jr.'s off-field issues? I'm not necessarily scared of it. You trust your area scouts, what they have to say about the kind of character the guy has, And, there are some whispers and all this different stuff about Pearce. But at the end of the day, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, they're going to listen to their staff. They're going to listen to the recommendations that their scouts give to them. And if there are concerns, then, they won't consider them. But if they like the player, if they've met with him, if they've addressed the concerns with him, and they feel like he can be a good member of this organization, and he somehow falls to their pick at number 29, I mean, this guy is a top 3 edge rusher in this class on film, in my opinion. I love his film. Super explosive at 245 pounds, has a lot more power than you would think from kind of quote-unquote undersized edge rusher. So I really like his profile, man, and if everything checks out character-wise, I think that he's absolutely somebody the Commanders should consider if he's there at 29. We got one from Billy Everett here. Says, Jack, do you think the Madden connection will make a maiden connection will make an impact this season? I don't know what this question refers to. So, Billy, if you have a different question or if you want to rephrase that, let us know in the chat. And we'll go to Merle here. A new question says, how far back should Washington trade back if they do? Merle, I think that as long as you're getting an additional pick that you like, as far as you really want to go, it depends on how their board stacks up. Like if you have a player that you really like, that you want to make sure that you get, then maybe you just trade down to like 33 or 34. But, if the board is kind of falling in a way where you're fine trading down to like the low 40s, even if it means you get an additional day 2 pick, I think that's something that the Washington Commanders might consider. But like I said, it completely depends how their board shakes out, what players they like, what positions they want to prioritize early on in the NFL draft. So there's no real way I can truly answer this because I'm not in the war room with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. But, I think that, I wouldn't look for them to trade down too far. I would be kind of shocked if they went down past the 40th pick. All right, so that's probably what I'll tell you right there, Merle. Before we get to the rest of your questions on this week's Commanders Report mailbag, let's have word from our sponsor today at Game Time. And recently, producer Joey and myself took a trip over to Globe Life Park in Arlington to watch the Texas Rangers and Jacob deGrom take on the Boston Red Sox in a game where the Texas Rangers actually ended up winning. And thanks to Game Time, we were able to save money on those tickets so we could splurge a little bit more at the game itself. We had a really great time, and Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports and makes getting tickets to any event faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can go watch the Washington Nationals play this season at beautiful Nationals Park to take in the beauty of the game while not breaking the bank on those great seats all over the ballpark. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, our next question coming in here from Mickey. Says, Ja'Cory Brooks is usually there in the 7th when I play around with the mock drafts. I think he might be good for a punt return specialist. I mean, sure. I will say, as somebody that's watched a lot of Tyler Shuck film, Ja'Cory Brooks was his number 1 receiver. So, he was the best receiver at Louisville. Congratulations. It was one of the worst wide receiver cores in the entire college football Division I. It's so bad. But Ja'Cory's a decent player. He can be a special teams player for you. But honestly, you got Luke McCaffrey, you got Austin Eckler. I don't really know if this team really needs another special teams type of player in that regard. I guess you can think about it. 7th-round pick doesn't really matter all that much. 7th-round picks have such a low hit rate where you can kind of just play around with the different players that you want to take there. But Brooks is a player that does have some skills, and I wouldn't necessarily hate it if they ended up getting him in round 7. Then we got one from JG. Says, do you see a significant increased use of Sinnott and McCaffrey in 2025? It depends on their development. I mean, if they earn it, absolutely. All right, if Sinnott becomes the type of route running type of threat that he had the potential to become coming out of Kansas State last year, and he kind of usurps Zach Ertz, then I think absolutely it's a possibility for the Washington Commanders in 2025. And then when it comes to the wide receiver room, you look at Luke McCaffrey, and, he also needs to prove himself because you got Terry McLaurin, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Noah Brown, and they might even add another receiver in the draft. So he's got some people on the depth chart that he's going to have to compete for playing time with. But he certainly was somebody that this team was high on when they drafted him on day 2 of the draft last year. And, he certainly is going to have an opportunity to prove himself. I think he showed some really good stuff after the catch. He really proved himself as a special teams asset last year as well. And, it seems like he and Jaden Daniels really like each other and have built a little bit of chemistry with each other. So I'm really rooting for McCaffrey and Sinnott, these 2 rookies that they took with kind of big hopes for future seasons. So it's going to come down to their development and just how good they're able to get during the offseason. But if they take the proper steps, they certainly invested enough draft capital in them to give them every opportunity to get increased production and increased playing time next season. Then we got one here from Caesar Holmes. Says, Nick Emmanwori reminds me of Sean Taylor. Would love to get him. Thoughts? I'll tell you this, man. He's got a lot of development to go before he's Sean Taylor, because Sean Taylor is, he's one of the best safeties, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. All right, flying around, doing all the huge hitter. Emmanwori's got the physical profile to be as good as he wants to be. But right now, his run diagnostics in the run game are terrible. It takes a long time to process information, all right, which is a big, big red flag. He's also not very good at taking on blocks. And for a guy as strong and as big as he is, that's not exactly ideal for somebody that would be coming in here to be a box safety. I think that he's got a long way to go, man. And I think he's more comfortable playing in the slot or as a deep safety. He played mostly free safety at South Carolina, and he's got the speed to play that. But that's not the role the Commanders would be asking of him. They'd be asking him to play Jeremy Chinn's box safety role, the Cam Chancellor role, so to speak. And I just don't know if I see that type of player on his film. He certainly has the physical capability to become that type of player, but I think, if you're going to transition him to more of a permanent strong safety, box safety type of role, you're going to have to develop him and you're going to have to be patient with him. All right. And if they start him at strong safety next year, I almost guarantee you there's going to be problems. There's going to be problems with his run defense. That's just something you're going to have to live with if you take him and you play him from year 1. Then we got one from Quark. Says, how do you feel about the Commies taking someone like Josh Connerly, Kelvin Banks, or another great O-line prospect if they fall to us at 29? I'll say this. I think that their tackle situation is kind of squared away, at least for now. I think that they like Tunsil, and he's obviously under contract for multiple seasons, so you don't need to get a future replacement in the building or anything like that. And then you got Brandon Coleman, who they're going to try at right tackle for the season. They spent a relatively high pick on him last year, so I'm assuming they're going to give him every opportunity. The position that I think that there's a chance that they could take is they could take an offensive lineman to start at left guard, whether that's Gray Zabel, who could be an excellent left guard for this football team on day 1, Kelvin Banks, who a lot of people think is going to be a guard because of his lack of his arm length. Banks would be an incredible guard right away, by the way, guys. Like, he could be a Pro Bowl guard year 1, in my opinion. So, if Banks or Gray Zabel is there at number 29 and, like, all the edge rushers that you like are off the board, I think that Kelvin Banks or Gray Zabel, if one of those guys is still available, is kind of a dark horse name to watch out for the Washington Commanders, because obviously priority number 1 is protecting Jaden Daniels. I think Nick Allegretti is certainly a spot there at left guard that could be replaced. Or upgraded, I should say. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the most interactive Commanders community here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for all the questions on today's edition of the Commanders Report Mailbag. We got more Commanders content coming your way here as we gear up for the 2025 NFL Draft, which is just days away at this point. So make sure you click that subscribe button for free, extensive, in-depth Commanders coverage for free every single day.